So we'll go ahead and get started because we have a lot of really fun books to talk about. Welcome to Books in Focus. I am Miranda, joined by my colleagues Christine and Ash, and we are talking about the new books coming out in October. We're going to jump right in with our bestsellers into the fiction. In Too Deep by Lee and Andrew Child. This is the latest in the Jack Reacher series. In this one, Jack wakes up alone in the dark and handcuffed. He has no memory for how he got there or how anything that has happened since. In fact, the last thing he remembers is hitching a ride and getting run off the road. And I'm not going to reveal more. It is an action-packed thriller that is sure to please according to the reviews. The next one is The Waiting by Michael Connelly. In this one, Renee Ballard and the LAPD's Unsolved Crime Unit get a strange DNA result from a recently arrested man connected to a serial rapist and murderer from 20 years ago. But the man arrested is only 24. But nothing is as it seems in this intricately plotted police mystery. Next is The Gray Wolf by Louise Penny. Chief Inspector Gamache finds a strange note with "This may interest you" penned on a puzzling scrap of paper with a mysterious list, and shortly after, a murder is committed. These strange happenings propel the Chief Inspector and his team towards a terrible realization. Something more sinister is fast approaching in this suspenseful mystery full of twists and turns. Triangle is Danielle Steele's latest. In this book is at once a love story as well as a story of suspense and uncertainty. A woman dedicated to staying true to her own principles, Amanda finds herself caught between three men: her business partner, a lying ex-boyfriend, and a dashing new publishing agent she has been speaking to. But as she looks for love between these three, it becomes very clear that she is in very real danger, but the question is, from whom? Next is Murder Island by James Patterson and Brian Sitz. In this one, Professor Savage and his girlfriend Kira thought they had found heaven on earth, but their paradise becomes nightmarish when the two stumble on a terrifying conspiracy in this new cinematic, action-packed novel. Next is Identity Unknown by Patricia Cornwell. In this one, Dr. Scarpetta is called to an abandoned theme park to a bizarre murder scene to retrieve a body. She is devastated to learn that the victim was an ex, and even further disturbed by the fact that he seems to have deliberately left her clues in this suspenseful, atmospheric thriller. And a slight walk on the lighter side, Christmas Duet by Debbie McComber features Haley. She is taking a solo holiday trip, and along the way she rediscovers her passion for music and remembers that sometimes duets are more fun in this lighthearted, Christmas musically inclined romance. The final bestseller that we have here is The Blue Hour by Paula Hawkins. It is set on an isolated Scottish island where a cheating spouse goes missing after visiting the island 20 years ago. A strange discovery on the island intimately connects three people and reveals a web of secrets and lies in this masterful novel that asks searing questions about ambition, power, gender, and perception.
Nonfiction titles coming out in October. I believe you will probably recognize the author names on every single one of these books. It's a hot time of the year for publishing. We're going to start with Framed by John Grisham and Jim McCloskey. Grisham has teamed up with Mr. McCloskey, who runs an organization dedicated to exonerating people who have been wrongly convicted, to tell 10 harrowing stories of miscarriages of justice and their aftermaths. Second on our list is Sunny Boy. a memoir by one of the most iconic actors in the history of film, Mr. Al Pacino. It's about how acting has been the love and light of his life. He details his youth in the South Bronx, his family life, his education in the arts, his life in avant-garde theater, and talks about all of the films that made him famous. I Love You is a collection of recipes by Pamela Anderson. A cookbook with 80 vegan recipes from the actress and activist also includes insights on life, love, entertaining guests, and preserving nature's bounty. American Heroes by James Patterson and Matt Eversman.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, we're gonna double up each month now. Maybe, we'll have to watch for that. This is a gripping collection of first-hand accounts from decorated U.S. soldiers who served in overseas conflicts from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam to Iraq and Afghanistan. Authors also put together the best-selling Walk in My Combat Boots, so this is the same writing team. Revenge of the Tipping Point. Malcolm Gladwell has done a follow-up after 25 years to his book, The Tipping Point, which was his first groundbreaking book about how little things make a big difference. With the new book, he's returning to the same subject with the aim of explaining the dark side of contagious phenomena. It is a mixture of storytelling and social science. Brothers by Alex Van Halen. Alex Van Halen is, of course, the brother of musician Eddie Van Halen. This is an intimate and open memoir in which Alex shares his personal story of family, friendship, music, and brotherly love in this tribute to his beloved brother and bandmate. The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates, #1 New York Times bestselling author of Between the World and Me, journeys to 3 resonant sites of conflict to explore how the stories we tell and the ones we don't shape our realities. Written in 3 essays based on his experiences visiting 3 different places: Senegal, Columbia, South Carolina, and Palestine. And finally, From Here to the Great Unknown by Lisa Marie Presley. This is a raw and riveting memoir by the late Lisa Marie, who passed away in 2023. She, of course, is the only child of Elvis Presley, and the book was completed with the help of her daughter, Riley Keff. This is the first time that her whole story has been told together in one place. We have heard bits and pieces about her for 60-odd years, but I'm going to get it all out. Okay, now get started.
Jump right into our list. Our first book is an exciting new thriller, Society of Lies by Lauren Lane Brown. Our protagonist is Maya, and she is super excited to attend a college reunion at Princeton, not just to reminisce, but because her little sister Naomi is also graduating from this prestigious university. However, just a few days before, she receives the news that Naomi has died in a terrible accident. Maya fears that something more is going on. As she pieces together her sister's final weeks, she realizes that Naomi has been hiding more from her than she ever realized. This is described as a dark, haunting debut that explores secret societies and the intricacies of privilege and the bonds of sisterhood. Both of my read-alikes are connected to prestigious universities and shadowy rituals and secret societies that exist at these schools. The first one is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. In this one, Morena is a recently widowed group therapist, and she and her now deceased husband have been raising their orphan niece Zoe, who is now in her 2nd year at Cambridge. When Zoe's best friend is murdered, Morena rushes to Zoe's side only to discover that a secret group of students known as the Maidens have formed around a charismatic Greek professor at the school. Nothing is as it seems as Marina works to discover the truth in this slow burn, suspenseful thriller. The next is Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. Alex is the sole survivor of a horrific unsolved homicide, and while in her hospital bed, she is offered a chance of a lifetime to attend Yale. The questions are, what are the catch and why her? Arriving at Yale, she is tasked by a mysterious benefactor to infiltrate one of Yale's secret societies in this intricately plotted series opener.
Good day. Appropriately, I picked The Mighty Red. About to enter into a reluctant marriage for the prospect of inheritance, Gary navigates small-town politics. The story explores a plethora of characters, perspectives, fears, and desires, all juxtaposed to or relative to the chaos and major problems of the entire world. So literary fiction, tried to capture it as much as possible, but there was a lot going on, so but a lot of personal kind of strife. The two real legs I picked for this were There Are Rivers in the Sky, which just came out. This follows a drop of water through several centuries and the rivers Tigris and the River Thames, and 4 historical stories of people those rivers affected. And Bear by Julia Phillips is about 2 sisters living on an island across from Seattle come to conflict when a bear takes residence in their woods, and they both interpret his presence completely differently. The Man in Black is a mystery anthology stitched together by Ellie Griffiths. This is going to be a plethora of different types of mystery that cover the entire subgenres you would find in the overarching genre. Story number 1, a mysterious man in black becomes the crux of a rescue mission through Norfolk. Story number 2, a 1920s street musician looks into the disappearance of his landlady. And story 3, a young female detective looks into omens told by a fortune teller in post-war London. And story 5, a cat narrates a Christmas mystery, and so on and so forth. 2 picks for this are going to be Odd Partners, just also an anthology stitched together by Anne Perry. Stories from a lot of kind of bigger name mystery storytellers, all short stories. She collects an assortment of mysteries by an assortment of mystery writers with the theme of unlikely team-ups. So this is all the themes of the 19 stories in this book are kind of duos a la Holmes and Hastings, or I'm sorry, Sherlock and Watson, and then Holmes or Hastings and Poirot. Flipping that up. The stories range from the search for a missing World War I soldier to a wolf and a fisherman having to team up to fight against a billionaire who wants to take over their land. And then we have Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, the editor of a famous mystery murder writer, reads between the lines of her client's newest mystery, suspecting he may become much like the villains in his novels. And then, I know you all love World War II spy books
Here we go.
these days.
Sign up.
Brace yourselves. So, Betrayal at Blackthorn Park, a former typist turned spy amidst the throes of World War II, Evelyn Redfern is assigned a seemingly simple and quiet position in the Sussex county side, but much to her disappointment, but an upcoming visit from Winston Churchill in a dead body turned her simple assignment into one that may determine the outcome of the war. Real likes for this are going to be the librarian spy. The librarian is recruited to spy on the Axis in France, and she becomes the protector of a printing press that becomes the prime target of the Nazis. And the Whalebone Theater, which is about a group of children who grow up putting on plays between World War I and World War II on the countryside of Britain. And when World War II breaks out, they've got to use a couple of them end up using their actor skills to become spies for the Allies.
Was that a library?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of double discussion on that one, but yeah, it was a really good one. So, all right, there you go.
And following temporarily correct, this is Holston by Neil Stephenson. It is also a thriller. It is the first in the 3-part Bomb Light series. It is set during the Cold War. So in this one, Dawn is our protagonist. She's born to a clan of cowboy anarchists, there we go, in the American West. She finds herself, though, on shifting sands as she is moved back to Russia by her Russian father, and she bounces back and forth between Leningrad and the United States in the years after the Russian Revolution. As a young adult, she returns to Russia one more time after a surprising reveal about her past comes up, and a shadowy organization begins to groom her as an intelligence operative. This is described as a slow burn, complex story with an intricate and unique plot, with rich historical detail and a fascinating foundation for, and I quote, whatever comes next. So really looking forward to seeing how all 3 parts play out. The first read-alike I have is Our Woman in Moscow by Beatrice Williams. It has a similar focus on finding your identities and loyalties where your loyalties lie during the Cold War. In the autumn of 1948, Iris Digby vanishes from her London home with her husband, who is an American diplomat, and their 2 children. The family's disappearance becomes a sensation, and rumors of a shadowy connection to Moscow rise. 4 years later, Iris's twin sister, Ruth, receives a postcard from her missing sister with a postmark from Russia. Within a few days, Ruth is on her way to Moscow to extract her sister. As the sisters race towards safety, they are forced to make terrible choices between 2 strained loyalties. The other read-alike I have is The Red Daughter by John Burnham Schwartz. It also explores loyalties during the Cold War and has a female protagonist trying to figure out who she is and where she belongs. This is the fictionalized true story of Aleluvieva. She is the only daughter of the infamous Joseph Stalin, and she has decided to abruptly abandon her life in the USSR in 1967. With the help of a young CIA agent, she is smuggled into the United States. While she is attempting to settle into her new life, she begins to feel haunted and alienated by the radical differences between the USSR and the United States. In this historically detailed novel full of intrigue and uncertainty, you find her yourself trying to figure out, is she truly abandoning her country, or is she still loyal, or is she now loyal to the United States? And the interesting thing with this particular read-alike is that the author's father was actually the young CIA agent who escorted her from the USSR to the USA. So he's using a lot of his father's stories about this to write this novel. The next book we have is Wish I Were There, or Wish I Were Here by Melissa Weisner. This is a contemporary romance with a touch of magical realism. Catherine Lipton is meticulously plans and calculates everything. Not just because she is a math professor, but because of her chaotic childhood with a single free-spirited dad. When she wakes up one morning to discover that all proof of her existence has disappeared, she finds herself relying on the annoyingly laid-back but attractive Dorman to unravel the mystery of her missing identity. And a second chance to discover what else has been missing in her life. This is described as a heartwarming, fun read with a touch of magic that's perfect for the end of summer. The first read-alike I have is also by Melissa Weisner. This is The Second Chance Year. Not just because it's a great opportunity to get acquainted with the author and her style, but because it is a similar story of a young woman who manages to lose herself and find herself through a little bit of magic. In this one, our protagonist manages to lose her job, her apartment, and her boyfriend all in one foul swoop. Kind of down on her luck, she wanders around and finds herself face to face with a fortune teller who offers her a wish. While she doesn't believe in magic, she figures, why not? So she wishes that she could redo this past year to get rid of all of these awful things. When she wakes up the next morning, she discovers that it is January 1st of the prior year. And all of a sudden, she notices a lot more about her life than she did the first time around. This is described as a story full of charm, wit, and a little bit of magic. And following that theme, the next read-alike I have is This Spells Love by Kate Robb, because of its similar use of magic and focus on a young woman trying to figure things out. In this one, Gemma is our protagonist, and she is trying to heal after an especially painful breakup. She jokingly casts a spell to erase her ex from her past, but when she wakes up the following morning, she discovers that she is living in an alternate reality, and she's lost more than she planned for in this whimsical, witty romance with, again, more magic.
Magic and romance, we jump to mystery. A Little Lost Library by Ellery Adams. This is the 7th installment in the Secret Book and Scone Society series set in small town North Carolina. The main character is bookstore owner turned amateur sleuth Nora Pennington, who formed the before-mentioned society to help solve a businessman's murder. The society is described as a group of damaged souls yearning to earn redemption by helping others. In this new book, the group attempts to solve a series of murders connected to a bibliophile's missing books. When an elderly town resident doesn't come to the door to receive her book delivery, a worried Nora enters the house and finds her dead at the foot of her stairs. Was her death an accident? Was she killed by someone looking for something valuable within her extensive book collection? That's the question in the mystery. And a note for this one, this book has a little more serious content than the usual typical cozy mystery. It's got some things about hoarding and abuse, so a little bit of caution there if you're going to choose that one. Read-alikes would be The Paper Caper by Kate Carlisle. San Francisco book restoration expert and her husband chase clues all over their beloved city to solve a murder. And A Limited Edition Murder by Lauren Elliott, which also features a bookstore owner who finds herself investigating a murder when police suspect her dear friend of foul play. And A Limited Edition Murder is set in England. So a little bit of different flavor for each of those.
This one is Dogs and Monsters by Mark Hayden. This is actually a collection of stories that uses Greek myths and contemporary dystopian settings as a lens to explore morality, choices, love, and myriad experiences that make us human. This collection has been described as mesmerizing, imaginative, beautifully written, and an exploration of human behavior from both modern and ancient times. A lot of the myths focus on slightly more obscure Greek myths that he plays with and explores. And I don't want to give anything away. So the first read I have is The Witch and Other Tales Retold by Jean Thompson. This is also a collection of retold classic fairy tales that have been reimagined for modern times. It is also described as haunting, atmospheric, with equal parts entertainment and hair-raising. And you might remember that these stories, a lot of these fairy tales, did not always have happy endings, as they probe our deepest fears and the differences between good, evil, and human nature. And then if you enjoy just general retellings, the other read-alike I have is Clytemnestra by Costanza. Thank you. Costanza Casti. While there is a plethora of ancient Greek mythological retellings out there, I grabbed Clytemnestra because it seems like a good mix of a woman trying to focus on figuring out her situation and making it better. She did not choose this, but her husband and sister forced her into it, and she has to figure out whether she wants to go with acceptance of the situation or vengeance. It is a powerful story that looks at love, hatred, and what makes us human.
Another thriller coming out in October is This Girl's a Killer by Emma Wells. This is a bright and biting, fast and funny debut thriller about a pharmaceutical rep who moonlights as a serial killer in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So that packs a whole bunch of information in that first line, doesn't it? Cordelia Black loves exactly three things: her chosen family, her hairdresser, who is worth every penny she pays her plus the tips, and killing bad men. Does this murderous hobby give her a guilty conscience? Not really, because the men she kills are monsters who have evaded justice. In other words, they have it coming. But pressures at work, local news reports of a serial killer, and Cordelia's best friend dating a potential lowlife all combine to threaten her methodically maintained double identity. Wells mines plenty of laughs and thrills from Cordelia's attempts to claw her way to safety, with the darkness of the premise nicely balanced by the novel's fizzy first-person narration. That's from Publishers Weekly. Read-alikes for This Girl's a Killer would be Finley Donovan is Killing It by Ellie Cosimano. Stressed out single mom gets mistaken for a contract killer and as a result is entangled in a real-life murder investigation. Also, The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. A young Indian woman falsely rumored to have killed her husband gets attention from other women wanting to off their husbands. Pass it on. Pay it forward.
Don't read those, please.
I start bringing those home, you can get nervous. Next in romance, we have One Big Happy Family by Susan Mallory. This latest bestseller from Susan Mallory is a feel-good holiday story about a mother whose grown children dash her hopes of spending Christmas alone with the younger man she is secretly dating. Instead, she finds herself unable to say no to a holiday at her deceased ex-husband's cabin with a growing list of guests. Over this delightfully complicated and very funny Christmas, she'll discover that more really is merrier, and that a big happy family can become bigger and happier if they let go of old hurts and open their hearts to love. Publishers Weekly says Mallory does a great job capturing both the chaos and the joy of a family Christmas. Read-alikes would be Christmas Bliss by Mary Kay Andrews. A Savannah antique dealer has to manage her upcoming wedding, as well as her very pregnant maid of honors impending delivery. And An O'Brien Family Christmas by Cheryl Woods. This story is set in Ireland. The O'Briens are in an uproar over matriarch Nell's rekindled romance with an old flame, while Playboy Matthew O'Brien must convince an older woman burned by love to take a chance on him.
What was that one, the bandit? The bandit woman?
The Bandit Queen.
Queen, okay.
The Drowned by John Banville. Inspector Stafford, an Irish detective, must call upon genius pathologist Quirk in order to solve a missing persons case of a woman whose husband claims must have drowned or thrown herself at sea. But will the tumultuous past between Stafford and Quirk get in the way of finding the vanished? Realize this are The Unforgiven Dead. Constable Angus Hugh McNeil finds himself on a case of a drowned victim who he dreamt of the night of her murder and must expedite his investigation to save others. And The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. An officer and a genius are tasked with investigating a high-ranking officer's murder, but can they complete their mission when their findings become well above their pay grade?
Next up, we have another thriller. This is The Sequel by Jean Hanff Corlitz, a taut and compulsively readable spellbounder described as wicked entertainment. This book is a sequel to The Plot, which came out in 2021. It was a New York Times bestseller that Stephen King called insanely readable. That was about a struggling author who steals the idea for a book from his recently deceased student. We just had that topic, didn't we? Today? In his new book, that author's wife, at the prodding of his agent, publishes her own novel. It's a success, but she starts receiving anonymous accusations that indicate someone knows more about her than she would like, and she sets out to unmask them. With her signature wit and sardonic humor, Corlitz gives readers an anti-hero to root for while illuminating and satirizing the world of publishing in this deliciously fun and suspenseful read. Read Alikes for The Sequel. How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. This is a new library employee who suspects her coworker has a sinister side and can't resist digging into her past for answers. That's like me and Miranda.
I'll tell you which one's which though.
I know, don't reveal that. I'm kidding. And also Dexter's Final Cut by Jeffrey Lindsay. This is a psychological thriller with black humor and anti-hero main character. In this book, Dexter, the blood spatter analyst with a hobby of killing killers, gets unwanted attention from an actor researching a new role.
I'll Be Waiting by Kelly Armstrong is her most recent horror novel. It is described as an atmospheric, chilling story about a young woman, Nicola, with a terminal illness. Her last moments with her dying husband go viral after a tragic car accident. She is beset by mediums, spiritualists, and others who are offering her guidance for a price. Meanwhile, her friends and family encourage her to find closure in whatever way seems best to her. Nicola is reluctant, but moves forward with arranging a seance at the childhood home of her deceased husband. But nothing is as it seems. Is it the house or the present company that is causing the strange seemingly supernatural happenings. This is described as a hair-raising, eerie horror mystery full of things that go bump in the night and perfect for the month of October. The first read-alike I have is You Should Have Left by David Kelvin. This is a hair-raising, eerie, atmospheric tale of things that also go bump in the night, and where, again, nothing is as it seems. A screenwriter has gone on a 7-day retreat with his family to a isolated home in the German mountains to finish a project. But it quickly becomes apparent that something is horribly wrong. The house seems perfect, but strange and subtle things keep happening and unfolding as the screenwriter finds himself at a loss to understand who or what is haunting him. The next read-alike I have is The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. It is a similar story of strange supernatural happenings focused around a house. In this, a true crime blogger, Shay, gets a little more than she bargained for when a chance encounter with a woman named Beth Greer results in a rare interview. Beth Greer was acquitted of the 1977 Lady Killer murders and has since become a bit of a recluse. As Shay and Beth meet and begin to form a connection, Shay begins to question what else might be lurking at the isolated home Greer calls home in this chilling, eerie story with a strong sense of place.
The Great When by Alan Moore. This takes place in London. It's about a boy named Dennis who works at a bookstore and discovers a book that shouldn't exist. And by all records, doesn't. Upon investigation, he discovers that the book belongs to a secret world outside of our own that is filled with stories and stories within stories. He's got before time runs out as the book starts to destroy him, or worse. And he's got to delve into this London underground of fantastical characters, ranging from gangsters to sorcerers to maybe some other crazy things. So, very fantasy-esque. Picks for this were going to be Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, another secret city below London, houses monsters and saints and angels, and a man named Richard has gotten lost inside of this underground labyrinth of fantasy and must find his way back to his boring life. And this is the Wayward Children series. I think they just came out with number 9 or 10 if you like long series. These are all about children who were missing, coming back, like they magically reappear, and often their family has died since, or have also gone missing, or like they're coming back unchanged, and a big gap of time has just lapsed, and they end up at this orphanage. So every one of the books is a different set of characters ending up at this orphanage, and then there are different plots and mysteries or events that happen because of this. And sometimes they want to go back to this world that they were missing in.
Hey, more genre, Whiplash. Now we're going to talk about an inspirational book, Healing Touch by Suzanne Woods Fisher. This is a poignant story set in contemporary Amish country. The main character is Ruth Solfus, a dedicated doctor in her 50s who treats both the English and the Amish of Stony Ridge, PA. Despite her misgivings, Ruth is persuaded by her husband to temporarily take in an infant who was left on her office doorstep, and she is surprised by how much joy the child brings them. But just as she begins to bond with the baby, his birth mother reappears unexpectedly. There's also a secondary storyline that involves Ruth's assistant and her relationship with a patient who is dealing with breast cancer. The author perceptively sketches her characters' emotional arcs as life's challenges yield unexpected gifts, speaking to the power of second chances, faith, and love. Read-alikes for A Healing Touch would be Daybreak by Shelley Shepherd Gray. A woman working at a Mennonite retirement home finds herself torn between caring for needy family members and her attraction to a resident's son. And Home All Along by Beth Wiseman. A young couple have to weather life's storms with the help of their faith and the community around them. This Motherless Land by Nikki May is a literary fiction entry, an intelligent family drama that is a decolonial retelling of Mansfield Park, exploring identity, culture, race, and love. After tragedy strikes, Funk is sent away from her once happy home in Nigeria to live with her maternal grandparents in England. Having been told warm stories of England by her mother, she is surprised by the dreariness of her reception. The one bright spot is her free-spirited cousin, Liv, and the two become best friends. But a second tragedy tears their friendship apart. The novel traces their journeys over 2 decades, from young girls to young women. Nikki May is a master at creating worlds that challenge preconceived notions and characters whom readers love to forgive and long to nurture. This Motherless Land will have you sobbing, laughing, and raging, but you will never want to put it down. Read-alikes would be The Mothers by Britt Bennett, in which a 17-year-old girl, mourning her mother's recent death in a small community, takes up with the local pastor's son, a relationship that results in her pregnancy. And Hula by Jasmine Iolani Hakes, in which a young daughter of a legendary dynasty dreams of healing the rift in her family by winning the Miss Aloha Hula contest.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
What else has Britt Bennett written?
Oh, Becky.
I'm sorry, but the name sounds really.
It is very good. Did Britt Bennett write
Vanishing Half.
Vanishing? Yeah, Vanishing Half,
Vanishing
about the
Half.
sisters, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
The Vanishing Half. That was a
About the
book
sisters.
discussion book last year.
Okay.
2 biracial sisters, one passes as white, one doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Okay, that's it. I thought you were gonna ask me how many pages. These are not my notes, so. I know Hula is a book that was highly recommended by Miranda during one of our readers advisory sessions as well. And she does not recommend books lightly, so it received a lot of attention for its accuracy and its respect for the Hawaiian culture and so on.
Our next one is Libby Lost and Found by Stephanie Booth. And I'm just going to quote directly from the description here. This is a book for people who don't know who they are without books they love. It's about the stories we tell ourselves and the chapters of our lives we regret. Most importantly, it's about the endings we write for ourselves. I just thought that was a very pretty description for what looks like it's going to be a just charming book. Libby is our main character. She is an aging mega best-selling author of a fantasy series called The Fallen Children. Her rabid fans and publishers are becoming a bit impatient because her newest title is now months overdue. And it's partially because because Libby has been recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Desperate and disoriented, Libby turns to an 11-year-old super fan for help. This is described as a genuine, bittersweet, emotionally intense story with two lovable and authentic characters. So going off of that, both of my read-alikes focus on unexpected and lovely friendships that crop up between individuals from very different backgrounds. The first one is The 100 Years of Lenny and Margaret by Marina Koren. Lenny is 17 years old, living on the terminal ward. When she bumps into fellow patient Margaret, she begins to realize that it's not only the time that you have that matters, but who you share it with. Between the two of them, they discover they have lived an astonishing 100 years. It is described as a heartwarming, tender story about living life and the extraordinary gift of friendship. The next read-like I have is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Tova began working night shifts at the Sewell Bay Aquarium after her husband has passed away. One night she helps Marcellus, a giant Pacific octopus, out of a sticky situation after he has escaped from his enclosure. Before long, the two form a remarkable friendship, and with Marcellus's help, Tova discovers the truth of her past in this heartwarming story about friendship, healing, and family. Cannot get further from an unexpected, or from different backgrounds than a giant octopus and a person. Our next book is The Marigold Mind Laundry by Yoon Chung Yoon. This is a sweet and interesting looking novel, and I'm going to read again from the description for you. It is, welcome to the Marigold Mind Laundry, where we wash away the stains from your heart. Born with a mysterious power that she does not understand how to control, Junyin accidentally causes her family to vanish one night, and she vows that she will find them. In the process of doing so, she brings the Marigold Mind Laundry into being. And while she runs this miraculous and magical laundry that helps wipe away the stains on your soul, she starts to rediscover moments from her past. This is described as a joyous, inspiring story full of heartwarming and bittersweet moments, and just a little bit of magic. The first thing that popped into my mind after reading through the description for the Marigold Mind Laundry is the Homogawa Food Detectives by Hisashi Kashiwagi. This is also a focus on rediscovering moments from your past. Down a quiet back street in Kyoto is a very special diner run by a father-daughter duo. They are food detectives. Through ingenious investigation, they help their customers recall treasured memories from their past by creating dishes connected to those moments. This book is also described as a heartwarming celebration of good food and good company. The other read-alike I have is The Boy and the Dog by Seishu Hase, and translated by Allison Watts. It is a similar story that looks at the bittersweet and warm moments and how these connect and shape us. Our story focuses on one dog who changes the lives of everyone who takes him in on his journey to reunite with his first owner in this inspiring novel about the bonds between humans and dogs and the life-affirming power of connection.
It's a nice little book.
Yes. Although slight trigger warning, there is some mild violence in there, but it is a very sweet read. And you're still stuck with me, I'm sorry. Our next book is The Puzzle Box by Danielle Trusomi, sorry. This is the second in the Michael Briggs series. In this one, During the Meiji Restoration, which is a tumultuous period during Japanese history, Emperor Meiji places an imperial secret in a specially designed puzzle box dubbed the Dragon Box. The secret inside and how to open it were taken to the grave by Meiji and the box's creator. Every 12 years, during the Year of the Dragon, the imperial family hosts a clandestine contest to open the box. So far, all have failed. This year, they've called in the puzzle master, Mike Briggs, but he's got his work cut out for him as the puzzles turn deadly. In every review I read for this book, it described as a perfect read for fans of Dan Brown. So naturally, the first two read-alikes I have for this are Angels and Demons and The Da Vinci Code, both by Dan Brown. In this one, his famous character, Robert Langdon, a Harvard symbologist, finds himself drawn into a world of intrigue and global conspiracies as he follows historical clues to solve ancient puzzles, and it is described as a fast-paced action thriller. And then the other read-alike I have is The Puzzle Master by Danielle Trussoni. This is the first in the Michael Briggs series. Here you are introduced to him as a character and his unusual knack for creating and solving puzzles. He finds himself thrust into a strange world of ancient mysteries and explosive consequences with a strange mix of reality and I'm so sorry, I really don't know why I'm so struggling so much today, guys. And explosive consequences when reality and supernatural shenanigans collide in this fast-paced, engaging thriller. So, can't promise that we'll get better, but we will try.
Alright, I'm gonna struggle with this. I'm just gonna say Vo. Alright, so The City in Glass by Vo, because I'm not saying that. This is about a woman. Her name is Matrine. She's a mother, a wife, and a demon. She lives in a peaceful city of other demons at the center of our world. But that becomes under siege by angels who end up killing her family and decimating the city. In her rage, she curses one of the angels, binding him to her and the city, where he can't leave and he has to kind of stick around and do what she wants. So yeah, they end up rebuilding the city, and a new future with each other, but they end up having to prepare for another war. So fantasy, a lot of Christian Catholic themes for that. My two real-likes are going to be Good Omens. So Good Omens, when a child, the Antichrist, begins to come to power and kicks off the apocalypse, an ancient friendship between an angel and a devil must use their coming to overcome legions of heaven and hell to subvert the end of our world. And Clockwork Angel, not to be confused with Clockwork Angels, the Rush album. Thanks, John. In the 70s, Tessa Gray enters the supernatural underworld of London, makes allies with a group of demon hunters, and fights groups of vampires together, as well as other demons and warlocks, before they can usurp Britain.
In the women's fiction category, we have Like Mother by Susan Rieger. This is a fun, moving family saga about 3 generations of strong-willed women unknowingly shaped by the secrets buried in their family's past. In 1960, when she was only 2 years old, Lila's abusive father had her mother sent to an asylum, never to be seen again. Today, Lila has fought her way to become the executive editor of a newspaper. But her daughter, Grace, feels abandoned by her mother, who prioritizes her career over everything else. After Grace herself becomes a successful reporter, she decides to investigate her own family's history, one she knows so little about. Susan Rieger gives us perfectly messy, complex, witty characters searching for answers and connection. Long after you finish it, this book will make you think about the stories that shape us, the stories we search for, and what it means to pass them from one generation to the next. I do not have like a novel like this in me, because I don't know if you can believe it or not, but my family talked about everything. I have done so much research, there's not a single surprise. I can go back to the 1000s, and I knew all of it already. No secrets, none, zero, zilch. Okay, my boring little life. Anyway, read-alikes for Like Mother would be The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer, which is a story about a shy college freshman who has her life changed when she meets a prominent and well-respected figure in the women's movement. And also Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. A young woman with a tragic background meets a spirited young woman at college and becomes immersed in her close-knit family, but darkness from the past jeopardizes their relationships. And I think I said a young woman to begin with. It's a young man with a tragic background meets a young woman at college. The story might start out very differently if you took my word for it. I correct myself.
The Blood Test by Charles Baxter. A divorced Midwestern father takes a genetics test and learns he has a predisposition for murder. Rock.
Mine only said I had a predisposition for naps and coffee.
Or else.
Nothing exciting.
Or else.
Yeah,
Brock navigates life and relationships as the people around him expect him to turn murderer at any moment.
This actually takes place in Ohio. I'm forgetting to say like Bakersfield.
This is a lot about relationships, him coming to terms with like divorce and teenage daughters, and people fearing him when he actually has no want to hurt anybody, but everybody thinks he is about to kill somebody. Alright, so I got Wayward by Dana Spiotta. Sam's life begins deteriorating as her mom falls ill and her teenage daughters act more and more like teenagers. So she flees her life in this novel about aging and the female body. These are kind of literary fiction, so you get kind of those touches. And then Mercy Street by Jennifer Haig. Claudia has counseled a decade's worth of patients at her clinic, which serves as a safe haven for countless women. But on the outside, it's under endless attack from protesters and extremists.
So this one, the last one, At the Wedding, is a thriller mystery. In this one, our protagonist Frank is shocked when his daughter Maggie, whom he has not spoken to in many years, has invited him to a wedding, and he's determined to make things right. As he arrives for the wedding at a very private, secluded estate full of luxury and other things, he feels that something is off. As he starts trying to get to know his future in-laws, it becomes more apparent that Maggie might be in danger and that nothing is as it seems with her new fiance. This is described as an edge-of-your-seat thriller that delves into the heart of one family and a father's hope of protecting his daughter. It's described further as a brilliant work of suspense from a true modern master.
Yeah, that's what Patrick's gonna say too.
The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager is an interesting suspenseful novel about a woman who's struggling with life and decides to take a trip and to a lake house. As she's at this house, she meets the couple who lives across the lake, and she begins meeting with them, and after one delightful night where they talk and have dinner, she goes back to her house and starts noticing strange things happening at these individuals' homes, which begins to prompt her to wonder, who are they and what are they doing across the lake? Meanwhile, the Weekend Retreat is another one that I might need some assistance with because I have not actually presented that one before.
It's three siblings and their significant others spend a weekend at their family's winery estate. The weekend takes a dark turn as tensions build and the three couples are pushed to the edge. Great job.
We salvaged it. Everyone this Christmas has a secret, which is the sequel to Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, and everyone on this train is a suspect. I don't know if you've read those. So to quote the blurb, as if Knives Out and Thursday Murder Club kissed under the mistletoe, Ernest finds himself backstage for the holidays in a murder or two. I wrote that right, I just said it wrong. Finds himself backstage for the holidays as well as a murder or two at a magic theater, and all the suspects are masters of misdirection tricks and smokes and mirrors.
There must be something in our water today.
People been drinking.
Yeah, well, yeah, was it
Just
water?
coffee.
Yeah, we just, coffee's our strongest vice during work time, but man.
Alright, so everyone in my family has killed someone is as if being snowed in with family isn't already a worst case scenario. One of them has just committed a violent murder.
Those two are great. Those two are great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the train, everybody's a writer on the train, and one of them has used their murder research over the years to commit a murder. So, and you're stuck on the train with them and other writers. And then we've got Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes.
I thought
Now, wait a
that.
minute. I'm quite so cheerful about that.
I could have done you a
I was
favor.
hoping your brain cells would be yours.
I could have done you a favor.
Ever considered killing someone, even for a second? Well, there's a school for that. And how best to get away with it. So that's what that's about. All right, What I Ate in 1 Year by Stanley Tucci is a memoir / cookbook. It details meals in the plethoritude of settings throughout his personal and professional life, as well as attention to the recipes and cuisines themselves. Tucci reveals his life in his connections to food and those he shares meals with. The story he weaves for his life and family is mixed as well with emotions as it is with some of the high-end meals you'd expect from this A-list actor. My two picks, more in the memoir route, as Trejo's Tacos, Recipes and Stories from LA, Danny Trejo's memoir slash kind of experience opening up Hispanic restaurants. A legendary actor and restaurateur shares his life story from prison to Hollywood, as well as his plethora of recipes, mainly tacos. And then Kitchens of the Great Midwest is a fiction title. We had Strudel last year. I don't know if any of you read this one. This one's my favorite of his. This is an anthology following a girl as she grows up, and she affects the lives of everybody around her and her love for food. Oh, it's so good. This is one of my favorites. So I try to pull this whenever I can.
I get it.
The next nonfiction title we have is Elements of Marie Curie by Deva Sobel. In this new biography, it's not only the story of Marie Curie, but it also chronicles the lives of the many young women she trained and who trained in her laboratories and launched them into scientific careers of their own. This is described as meticulously researched and a fascinating look at science's most well-known female scientists. And it seems to be that Sobel's thing is to write stories from other perspectives about well-known individuals in scientific fields. His first book is my first read-alike, and that is Galileo's Daughter. In this one, Galileo's life and famous clash with the Catholic Church is examined through the letters of his daughter, who was a cloistered nun. It's described as a stunning portrait of the man behind the father, or I'm sorry, a portrait of the man behind the title, The Father of Modern Physics. The other read-alike I have is The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. After the discovery of radium, of course, by Marie Curie, it started popping up everywhere, and it seems to be the perfect, most interesting thing as a chemical in this new era of science, until the girls at a radium dial factory become ill under mysterious circumstances. This is meticulously researched narrative nonfiction that tells the story of one of the first major workers' rights fights and the tenacity and courage of these young women as they fought not only for their rights but also from corporate corruption.
That was really good. Yeah, it was good.
Pictures are terrible. It was really disturbing.
I Will Do Better by Charles Brock is a memoir. Novelist Charles Brock writes about his experience becoming a single parent after his wife passes away from a complex form of leukemia. Charles gives a pulls no punches account of how he and his young daughter found themselves while dealing with their grief. It's described as both comical and heartbreaking, and a unique and straightforward portrait of fatherhood. And with that, both of my read-alikes deal with individuals who dealt with grief and kind of found themselves through not just fatherhood but other things as well. This Ordinary Stardust by Dr. Alan Townsend is his story of how he found his way back to human connection after being hit with the double catastrophe of his wife being diagnosed and dying of cancer, while his 4-year-old daughter was found to have a brain tumor not related to his wife's cancer, and how being a lifelong learner and science helped him find his way back as the two of them not only battled her illness but also their grief for the loss of his wife and her mother. The other read-alike I have is The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. In this, if you are not familiar with his story, he was a computer science professor from Carnegie Mellon, and he was asked, like many professors are, if you vanished tomorrow, what information would you leave behind as your legacy? Unfortunately for him, this was way too much of a reality because he was diagnosed with a terminal form of cancer. So he decided to write out his last lecture for his son. It is described as a touching combination of humor and intelligence and ruminating about how to live your life and connect with others.
Meditations for Mortals by Oliver Berkman teaches the art of imperfectionism, tackling everyday issues with our finite time, reflecting on teachings from philosophy, religion, literature, and psychology to help make good decisions amidst a sea of issues. This is sort of a little bit of a follow-up to his 4,000 weeks time management for mortals. Drawing insights from philosophers, psychologists, and spiritual leaders to manage anxiety, wants, needs, and goals in your limited time. And then, also in the same vein, Think Again by Adam Grant. Learn to embrace being wrong and ignorant, and master a mindset of learning and improvement, and become a great leader of innovation and productivity through humility.
Is the new book a whole lot shorter because he's only doing 4 weeks instead of 4,000?
So I haven't seen the book yet, but that's funny.
152nd is big. A memoir by Bethany Jo Lenz, Dinner for Vampires. Miss Lenz was a star in the hit drama One Tree Hill, which ran from 2003 to 2012 on the CW. Unbeknownst to her co-stars and fans, Lenz was also a part of the Big House family, a cult in the guise of a church where Lenz found a sense of belonging as a young woman. She slowly found herself losing her autonomy, having millions of dollars taken from her, and even being pressured into marrying the son of the group's leader. After being trapped in the cult for a decade, Lenz became a mother, and the desire to spare her daughter the same fate gave her the courage to leave. Written with powerful honesty and dark humor, Dinner for Vampires is an inspiring story about the importance of identity and understanding what you believe. Rita Likes would be When the World Didn't End by Guinevere Turner. An acclaimed screenwriter tells the story of her childhood growing up in the infamous Lyman family cult and the complicated and unexpected pain of leaving the only home she'd ever known. And Captive by Catherine Oxenberg. Former soap actress Oxenberg helps her daughter break free from the cult posing as a self-help organization. NXIVM. I think that is the way to say that with all the letters. Run by Keith Rainier.
I read When the World Didn't End, and that's really chilling to read about those cult.
Oh, yeah, that's very
I
very
just
frightening.
finished a different
Yeah.
one too.
Yeah, very frightening. We have to be aware, it's good for us to read these things. And then Life Form by Jenny Slate. This is a quirky and heartfelt collection of essays by the actress and comedian Jenny Slate. As a whole, the book is an account of her journey in finding love and having her first child. She tells her story in 5 pieces, and her writing takes the form of Letters to a Doctor, Dreams of a Stork, Fantasy Therapy Session, Gossip Between the Raccoons, and excerpts from an imaginary olden-timey play, obituaries, theories about postpartum hair loss, graduation speeches, and more. Funny, lyrical, and sometimes strange, these essays pulse with life. Rita Likes would be Little Weirds, also by Jenny Slate, which is humorous essays on topics such as French Kissing Rabbits, Haunted House, Divorce, and much more. And I've Tried Being Nice by Anne Leary, who incidentally is the wife of Dennis Leary, which is a delightful collection of humorous essays by a middle-aged woman looking back on her life. And that brings us to the conclusion of Books in Focus. Share with you the calendar and point out a few things. We have our author fair coming up on Saturday. And we have all booklets are available. They're available at the front desk if you haven't grabbed one of those yet. All registration will begin on September 23rd, and the first class is October 10th.